welcome to Structure Fishing. I'm Jim Shell. Today I'm going to do a review on Lake Shelbyville. Uh, and at the end of the video, you're going to see, some clips of a recent trip I had there back this past Memorial Day weekend. Lake Shelbyville's a pretty special reservoir for me. Back in 1987, when I first read Buck's material, I think I read his material the first week in June, and ever since that first week in June in 1987, I fished a new lake every single weekend. And Labor Day weekend of 1987 is the first time that I fished Shelbyville, and I probably fished it 3 or 4 years, 87, 88, 89, and then got busy fishing all the other lakes in the Midwest, and didn't come back and start fishing it again until 2006, 7, something like that. And it's a really nice reservoir, and it is located in south central Illinois. Let me zoom in, zoom in on this. We are, of course, looking at an avionics website here, and here's what the lake looks like. Like I said, it's 11,000 acres. It was built in 1970, and the state has been stocking walleyes in there, I think, ever since the lake was built. The walleye population really hasn't been that established. It relies heavily on stocking. They're getting very little natural reproduction, if any at all. And when I went back fishing, started fishing it again, like in 2006, 7, something like that, I was catching saugers. And I had no idea that saugers were in here or what the deal was on that. When I got home after that trip, I researched and looked on the internet and found out that the state put in experimental stocking of saugers in there. Those were the ones I was catching, and they were thriving like crazy. They were doing fantastic. The state thankfully acknowledged the excellent growth rates and how healthy these saugers were. And apparently saugers reproduce a lot easier in reservoirs than walleyes do. And they're getting natural reproduction, I believe, and it's turning into a great sauger fishery, which you'll see at the video at the end of this clip here. But recap, Lake Shelbyville actually is mostly known for crappies. Probably most of the fishermen that fish this lake are fishing for crappies, and I've caught crappies on almost every single trip I've gone down here accidentally. I never really target them. This was the first trip that we spent about half the time targeting crappies, and we had a blast. We're definitely going to make this an annual trip down here, fishing for in the mid-spring like this, fishing for crappies as well as walleye saugers. And this lake does have a very good population of largemouth bass, nice largemouth bass. I generally don't fish for those until they go into summer pattern after they fully recover from the spawn. And that on this lake typically doesn't happen until about the third week in June, the last week in June. Definitely by July 1st, the largemouth bass are in full summer pattern. And I'll show you spots where I fish for those. But being a reservoir, like we said, we're going to expect better watercolor in the headwaters, and as we get closer to the dam, it's going to clear up on us, and that's the same thing here with Shelbyville. One other thing I like to mention here is that the watercolor in this reservoir can vary quite a bit. Some springs I go out there and it's 6 feet high. Sometimes it's at normal pool, and sometimes it's 4, 5, 6 feet below normal pool. So I've been fishing this lake with a swing of 12 feet from year to year. 6 feet low and 6 feet above normal pool. This particular year, it was about 3.5 feet below normal pool. But I'm going to go over some of the structures that I like to fish, and I've only fished a handful of the structures. Looking at this map, there are so many good spots that I want to spend some more time checking them out. But being that I'm typically targeting walleye and saugers and even white bass, they're migratory fish. So in the spring, we're going to expect those fish to be up towards the headwaters, and as the season progresses, they're going to migrate towards the dam. So when I start fishing this reservoir in early May, mid-May, I'm looking for areas still up, somewhat in the headwaters here. And this is the main river branch that feeds the lake. It's the Kishwaukee River, I think. But this is one structure I like. As you can see, they sort of show the old channel going through here, and it goes up right against here, then swings in a close shore here, and you can see here you got a real nice bar here, break line here, and I've caught lots of walleye, saugers, and schools white bass on this one structure here. It's a very good structure at Normal water level, high water level, and low water level. It may be a little bit too shallow for the fish. On this past trip, I didn't catch anything. Actually, we did get a couple of walleyes down over here, but that's usually one of the structures I start out with, and then as I work my way towards the dam here, this is another structure. Although I've only fished it a couple of times, but you got long bar coming out over here, breaks off real good, and there's walleyes and there's crappies as well too, and even white bass off of that structure here. I'm just giving you the main structures on the lake. There's a lot of small bars and smaller structures that hold fish, but I typically like to look fish for the larger structures that are going to have big schools of fish on them. Let me zoom out a little bit here. You have a major feeder creek channel here, and coming down here, and you're going to have a bar in between these two channels here, which is always going to be a very good structural potential to be a very good structure on this lake. It is. Back in 1988, I believe, I was down here right after Labor Day weekend, and I had caught about a 30-inch walleye right at the end over here. It was a skinny fish, but it was a long fish, 30 inches. And that was in like 88. I mean, back then was a big walleye in Illinois. It sort of still is. But this whole break line here is very good for walleye, saugers, and a cross over here as well too. On this past trip, we caught a couple of nice saugers and walleyes on this part of the break line here. And we also caught probably half the crappie we caught on that trip came over here. Like I say, the water level on this particular trip was about 3.5 feet down. So if I'm not mistaken, this was about a 10, 11, 12 foot break line around here. And that was another good structure for us. Oh, another thing I want to mention here. We'll move down a little bit more here. Here is, I think this is called Wolf Creek. This is typically where I camp and launch the boat out of here. And let me zoom out here. There are a couple of nice bars in that. Oh, that's not it. I'm looking at this creek here. I think this is Wolf Creek over here. Yeah, launches over here. You can see it right there. Come out over here. You can find some walleyes and saugers at times on this bar over here. But for some reason, these two little bars right next to each other over here, always, probably the most consistent producer for me has been this area right over here. Matter of fact, I think it is the first video I ever uploaded on YouTube. If you look up on my channel and sort by date, the oldest, I think you'll see it here. And I caught some walleyes and saugers off of these two structures here. And on this video you'll see at the end, we were catching crappies and saugers off of these two bars here too. Very good little structure. But let me move back up a little bit. When you cross the bridge over here, for some reason, for a small structure, this little bar, this map isn't 100% accurate, but it's pretty close. At least it'll put you in the right areas. But this bar you see right over here has produced some walleye, saugers, and even some largemouth bass and white bass as well too. But let me move down over here. One thing I also want to mention here is Wolf Creek over here, coming out over here, and the Buck's Home Study Course. If you look at Volume 7, Part 1, Mapping Interpretation, if you go to page 32, there's a diagram. Buck doesn't have any lake names on here, but I'm so familiar with the lakes in the Midwest, I know for a fact that is Lake Shelbyville, and he calls it a deep flatland reservoir here. And that area that's in the book is this area right over here that Buck talks about. Pretty interesting. Some of you may want to get out Buck's Home Study Course, look at page 32 on Volume 7 and check that out. Another little tidbit of information here is that probably 80 to 90% of the lakes contour maps that Buck has in Home Study Course happen to be lakes that are in mostly in southern Wisconsin and a handful in Illinois. But as I'm looking through the Home Study Course, boy, I recognize that lake. I recognize that lake. Most of them, like I say, are Southern Illinois and some in, I mean, Southern Wisconsin and some in Illinois. Crab Orchard Lake in Southern Illinois is listed in there. But anyway, you'll find this in the home study course as well too. Buck asks you questions about, how you would interpret this and where you'd fish and all that other stuff. But it has a good walleye sauger population and the crappies populations. And I was talking about largemouth bass. I I wait till they get into their summer pattern, which, like I said, is usually towards the end of June. You're in full summer pattern on a normal year. Definitely by July 1st, these fish are moving really good summer pattern. And for the largemouth bass, I generally do all my fishing towards the bottom of towards the dam end of the reservoir here. I usually start typically on this west side of the lake. I usually start around here. You'll see that the channel swings in really close on this side of the lake and over here. And yeah, I usually start right around here. I'm not sure what this creek is called over here, but I usually fish for bass. These bars coming out over here, out of this channel here, this one over here, you can see you got some nice deep break lines. It's shown right on the map here. You got a break line around 20 feet. You got a nice structure over here coming out of that channel. You got a lot of bars coming out over here. You got, just a lot of good structure. You can see right over here, you got these shallow bar coming out over here. You got deeper break lines out over here. All of this stuff down here is where I spend my summers fishing for bass, off of all these bars coming out over here, all the way down to here. Usually I stop right around here. But this whole section over here is really good for bass. But that's a quick overview on Shelbyville. Typically the watercolor, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be better in the headwaters, but even down by the dam, generally speaking, it's really not that bad. I'd say you usually have a medium to dark yellow-green up in the headwaters. By the time you get to the dam, it's usually a light medium yellow-green. And that varies with, the amount of rainfall and runoff you have into the lake here. But it's a great reservoir. It's got so much structure on here. There's so many spots we can look at and, go over here. And a lot of these spots I haven't fished, and I would love to get down there and spend some more time fishing. And this is something worth checking out here. You got a big bar over there. But anyway, but once again, I usually try to, if you're interpreting this map, you can see the original creek channel over here. I typically want to find structures that are related to the main channel or a side feeder creek channel. But that's a quick rundown on Shelbyville. You're going to watch the video of Casey and I catching some crappies, walleye and saugers, and we got a couple of big catfish here too. Thanks for watching. All right, we just started fishing a new area here. First pass on it, Casey's got a fish, not very big fish, but oh yeah, you hit crappie. That's a big crappie. Oh, that's a nice crappie. Hit the crankbait.
Wow,
nice. You thought it was a largemouth.
Yeah.
Oh, it just came up. Did he fall down there?
Yeah.
All right, hold him up here, man. Let's see that guy. Well, that's a nice crappie. Is that our second or third keeper crappie, I think?
Third.
Nice fish. Now that's a good eating size one right there. We've been catching a lot smaller ones. We've obviously been throwing them back, but nice fish, man. Let's
get some more.
All right, we had the camera off for a bit. We came to a structure that we know really good over here, and we didn't get it on film because there was a couple of boats that were close by, but we caught 15 fish. Out of that 15 fish, one was a keeper's walleye, 16 and a half inches. Casey got a small walleye, like 13 inches. And we got, Casey just got hooked up right here. Ooh, nice crap. Oh, wow, that really black one. There you go. We just moved the boat to another spot here that we know really that has produced a lot of walleyes and saugers for us in the past. And Casey got another nice keeper's crappie here. That's a really dark one. Wow.
There you guys go. All I'm using is like a 16-ounce jig head with a little night crawler.
That one?
Yeah.
All right, Casey's using a little casting spoon.
Oh, nice one.
Another nice crappie there.
Oh,
It's probably, they're all at that size. They're not really keepers. We're throwing these back, but you probably caught around 10 of those so far.
Yeah.
And we're using a variety of baits. That's a little casting spoon there.
No keep.
No. We didn't get this on film, but about the same area where Casey cut that big crappie, got a 19-inch sauger. Nice sauger, man.
Yep.
And it hit the crankbait, a hot end tot we were using. Oh, there's a hot end tot still in the net. Nice fish. We'll put him in a live well with the other ones we've got, man.
19 inches.
Great sauger.
Yeah. All right, my dad's got a fish on.
It slammed me. I got a feeling it's a cat, though.
I actually caught a white bass reeling in. We found a nice productive structure out on Shelbyville. We've caught, 10 little tiny crappies so far.
On this break line. This fish just slammed it. I got a feeling it's a cat. I want to get a... How cool is this running? Making a run again. It's a nice fish.
Big cat. Yeah.
All right. Casey got a cat. I got a cat today.
Yep.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of action today, so we must have caught, between both of us, 30 fish at least.
Yeah. So
all right.
Good day.
Yep. Yeah, he's probably 15 pounds, I'd say.
That's not that's a channel, right?
For a channel, he's big. Channels, I don't think it's a blue. I don't think they have blues in here. I think it's a channel.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Let him go.
Yep. Really hoping to get some walleyes and saugers, but these are really fun too to catch. So, what do we say, Dad?
Let's get some more.
Got one on here, guys. It's getting dark out.
Well, we got about another, 15, 20 minutes a day left. We're seeing if there's an evenly moving. Casey thinks it's a game fish.
Yep.
Hit you pretty good. The net is up by you. Ooh, nice walleye, nice walleye. Way to go, dude!
Awesome, man. Let's go.
Let's go, man. Maybe they're moving. That's a guy. That's about a. Is that a sauger? Ooh, what looked like a walleye. Let's see.
Good, nice size sauger.
Sweet. Let's not waste any time. Let's get back to see if he's going. You got him on a hot and tie. That's what we use in Canada. Awesome, man.
Let's get some more, man. Let's go.
Right.
All right, guys. Just got a double up on Lake Shelbyville. I had run rod to the side here. And I was casting another. Got a double. These crappies are scattered on these flats and are really stacking up on them.
Well, you probably caught 6 or 7 in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We didn't have the camera on, but the crappie bites turned on all of a sudden now, so.
Yep.
We got about another 6 or 7 in the live well already.
Yep.
Crappies, all right.
Let's get some more.
All right. We haven't been filming many of these. Oh, he gut hooked.
Switched it up to actually a little swim bait.
Between the two of us in the last 40 minutes, we probably caught at least 20, 30, probably 30 of these things.
Engulfed it.
It's probably the average size. There's about 9, we measured it, 9.5 inches. We've been letting most of them go. I think we got about 10 in the live well for a nice fish fry, but you've been doing pretty good, Casey. Or this has been a good spot for us here.
Yep.
Oh, you need pliers on that guy?
Yeah.
All right. Right. I just got landed this beautiful sauger here. You can see it on here. I got like a blade bait. Oh, love it, man. What a great fishery here for saugers. We got 2 yesterday, and we lost the third one. The 2 yesterday we got were 19 inchers. He's probably about 17 and a half, I'd say. But when it comes to saugers, nice fish here, man. Working the bar, caught plenty of fish here last many years, actually. One of my first videos I ever uploaded on YouTube. Check it out. I think it is the first one. I show fish in these areas, catching walleye and saugers on this bar, and there's 2 bars back to back here. So, nice fish. Let's get some more. About 20 minutes later, just got another one. I didn't even think this was a sauger. The thing was so aggressive. I'm using the same blade bait. It's a Max blade bait. Well, that's got to be about a 19 incher. We caught, I don't know, 18. He fought like crazy. I thought it was a nice fish, man. But
Nice, well-built fish, not skinny at all. Nice and healthy.
All right, man.
Awesome.
This is a great sauger fishery for sure.
Yep.
All right, let's get some more of these.